Welcome to another edition of World of Africa on WION The World is One. I'm Eric Njoka. Is Sudan heading to a possible partition? Well, it seems like it, because the Persists alliance, a coalition of Sudanese armed groups formed in February, has unveiled a parallel transitional peace government to rival Sudanese or Sudan's wartime government in Port Sudan. Persists is based on a partnership between the Rapid Support Forces and the Sudan People's Liberation Movement, North, a powerful armed group that controls swaths of South Kordofan and Blue Nile states in southern Sudan. We'll talk about that later. The show starts now. The Central African Republic's government signed peace deals with 2 of the 5 groups in the country's most powerful armed rebel movement. The agreements were signed in Chad, which acted as a mediator. The 2 predominantly Fulani armed groups that signed peace agreements are the Union for Peace in the Central African Republic, or UPC, and the C.A.R, Return, Reclamation and Rehabilitation Group. And by the way, the President, Faustin Touadéra, has announced his intentions of running for a 3rd term. Here's our cover report from Bangui. Following a peace agreement, rebels from the Union for Peace in the Central African Republic, UPC, and the Return, Reclamation and Rehabilitation groups have surrendered their weapons. This action, which includes the disarmament and demobilization of over 170 combatants, was facilitated by a peace agreement signed in April and formalized in July this year. The agreement also includes the dissolution of the rebel groups and a commitment to participate in the country's peace and reconciliation process.
The Union for Peace in the Central African Republic really needs to be disarmed because they have occupied a large part of the Central African Republic. This is why President Faustin Touadéra reached out to them, inviting them to come, because there has been an increase in insecurity in certain areas, meaning that people were unable to move around freely.
The African Union welcomed the dissolution of 2 of the most powerful armed groups in the Central African Republic, urging other combatants to also lay down their arms. The country is among the poorest in the world and has endured a succession of civil wars and authoritarian governments since independence in 1960. Despite a 2019 peace deal between the government and 14 rebel groups, several armed factions continue to fight and claim authority over parts of the country. The Central African Republic's latest civil war started more than a decade ago. The government has secured the main cities and violence has subsided in recent years. But fighting occasionally erupts in remote regions between rebels and the National Army, which is backed by Russian mercenaries and Rwandan troops.
I believe that the process will continue so that all Central African population can benefit from lasting peace and tranquility in the conduct of their daily activities.
The surrender happened as President Faustin Touadéra announced his candidacy for a 3rd term in December's elections. Touadéra was first elected head of state in 2016 after French military intervention and the subsequent deployment of United Nations peacekeepers ended a bloody civil war that flared along sectarian lines. He won re-election in 2020 in a poll marked by unrest and opposition allegations of fraud. His supporters say he's a peace builder who helped restore security in a large part of the country, while opponents accuse him of intending to remain president for life after a new constitution approved in a 2023 referendum authorized him to seek a third mandate. Africa Bureau, WION, World is One. Sudan has condemned an announcement by the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces to form a parallel government, calling the RSF-led administration a phantom government. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs said the move was clear evidence of the defeat and rout of the rebel group at the hands of their valiant armed forces. Analysts say the RSF-backed parallel government could complicate peace talks and cement a de facto partition in Sudan.
A Sudanese coalition led by the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces announced on July 26 a parallel government, a move fiercely opposed by the army that could drive the country further towards partition as a two-year-old civil war rages. The government led by RSF General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, known as Hemedti, was announced west of the country. The RSF and its allies signed in March a transitional constitution outlining a federal secular state divided into 8 regions. The RSF controls much of the west of the country, such as the vast Darfur region and some other areas, but is being pushed back from central Sudan by the army, which has recently regained control over the capital Khartoum.
Formation of the Presidential Council of the Transitional Peace Government of 15 members, including the governors of the regions, who, by virtue of their positions, represent the President of the Presidential Council for their regions, choosing Mr. Mohammed Hassan Osman Al-Taishi as Prime Minister of the Transitional Government of Peace.
The military, led by career army officer General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, had condemned the idea of the RSF creating a parallel government and promised to keep fighting until it controls all of Sudan, which has for years been plagued by conflicts, coups, poverty, and hunger. Sudan's Prime Minister Camille Idris visited war-torn capital Khartoum for the first time since he took office in May, pledging to rebuild the city that has been ravaged by more than 2 years of war. Dagalo, a former militia leader and one of Sudan's wealthiest people, was hit with sanctions by the US, which accused him of genocide earlier this year. Burhan was sanctioned in January by the US, which accused him of choosing war over negotiations to bring an end to the conflict that has killed tens of thousands of people. The two men had previously shared power after veteran autocrat Omar al-Bashir's ouster in 2019. However, a 2021 coup by the two forces ousted civilian politicians, sparking a war over troop integration during a planned transition to democracy. More than 2 years of armed conflict have devastated Sudan's infrastructure, causing severe power shortages that have deeply impacted people's lives. In Sudan's capital Khartoum, the largest refinery, which had been attacked repeatedly during the conflict, remains shuttered, resulting in fuel shortages that further cripple electricity generation.
The war that the rebels started has caused big damage and destruction upon sectors including power generation, transmission, and distribution.
Power shortages have disrupted the water supply. We are forced to drink unpurified water from wells or rivers, which makes us sick.
In Port Sudan, a port city by the Red Sea, daily blackouts exceed 10 hours. Residents in Khartoum endure 12 to 16 hours without power. Each day, making candles a highly demanded commodity. Africa Bureau, WION, World is One.
Masad Boulos, special advisor to U.S. President Donald Trump for Africa, was busy last week. He was on a whirlwind tour of the Maghreb region. The visit forms part of a broader U.S. initiative to redefine its engagement in North Africa and the Sahel. The diplomatic mission prioritizes conflict resolution and promotes a commerce rather than aid doctrine as Washington repositions its strategy on the African continent. Here's a report.
Amid the flurry of news, it may have been easy to overlook this mini-summit, which included the leaders of Gabon, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Mauritania and Senegal, and featured a televised lunch with the president. The fact that the meeting appeared to meet U.S. expectations may have contributed to its low profile. For the West African leaders present, however, it likely failed to adequately address their single most pressing concern: security in the Sahel. It was this statement by Trump that clubbed the essence of his engagement in and with Africa.
And we're shifting from AID to trade. We had AID, or aid as we sometimes call it, right to trade, and trade seems to be a foundation that I've been able to settle a lot of these disputes, like as an example, India and Pakistan, Kosovo, Serbia. I said, you guys are going to fight, we're not going to trade, and we seem to be quite successful in doing that. To that end, we have closed the USAID group to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse, which was tremendous waste, fraud, and abuse.
With U.S. President Donald Trump on a cost-cutting warpath since starting his second term, aid to Africa has been slashed, and now defense spending is in his sights. But could these approaches cost more in the long run? The phrase his administration presses on Europe to assume more of the cost of its own defense is burden sharing. This is the challenge that Washington is now throwing down to African armies too, and they are far less comfortably resourced to take it on. Masad Boulos, a special advisor to President Donald Trump on African affairs, was to embark on a tour of the Maghreb after the Trump-African leaders mini-summit. The visit is part of a broader U.S. initiative aimed at reasserting its influence in North Africa and the Sahel. The focus of this initiative is on conflict resolution, emphasizing a trade, not aid approach as Washington redefines its African strategy. Boulos began his shuttle diplomacy with Tunisia, where he met with Tunisian President Kais Saied and Foreign Minister Mohamed Ali Nafti to discuss a range of regional and bilateral issues. President Saied instead showed Boulos images of starving children in Gaza during their meeting at the presidential palace in Carthage.
The child couldn't even find a drop of water. This is totally unacceptable. Is this the international legitimacy, the very legitimacy that is crumbling day by day?
He then headed to Libya, where he met Libyan Prime Minister Abdelhamid Dbeibeh. And then ended his tour with a visit to Algeria, where he met Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune. The visit comes at a time of heightened diplomatic activity in North Africa, with key topics on Boulos' agenda, including the Western Sahara dispute. a long-standing point of contention between Morocco and Algeria, as well as irregular migration and the evolving role of US diplomacy on the African continent. Boulos' North Africa tour comes amid rising trade tensions after the Trump administration signaled support for new tariffs on several Maghreb countries. Of Lebanese descent, Massad Boulos is a prominent businessman and the son-in-law of President Trump. He currently serves as a senior advisor on Middle East and Arab world affairs, and has previously outlined his vision for implementing US policy in the region. The visit is being closely watched as a possible indicator of Washington's future engagement in North Africa, especially in light of the region's growing strategic importance and shifting international dynamics. Africa Bureau, WION, World is One.
A growing number of African Americans say they are considering leaving the United States and relocating to Africa. Those who've made the move cite the need to connect with their history and find a better life. And while Trump's not a direct reason to leave, they say the political environment is. Here's a report.
And I can tell you guys right now,
Austin Holloman, an American YouTuber, has lived in various countries for almost a decade. 9 months ago, he settled in Kenya. Holloman, who often films his daily life, says he felt that the social fabric in the US was broken. In contrast, he felt socially accepted in Kenya.
so I picked Kenya because I feel the safest here. People look similar to me, or you could say they look like me. It's not like going to Europe or going to some Latin American countries where there aren't that many black people. And I think God just wants me here. It feels like I'm at home, like I fit in here.
He believes the political environment in the US right now is putting the country at odds with many parts of the world, and as an expat he's concerned by what Trump may say next. Growing numbers are interested in leaving the US. Other African countries have attracted even larger numbers of African Americans. Ghana, which launched a Year of the Return program to attract the black diaspora in 2019, said last year it held a ceremony that granted citizenship to 524 people, mostly black Americans. Kenneth Harris spent most of his days in Atlanta, yearning for a life in a place where his dark skin color didn't make him a source of suspicion, but create a shared heritage. His chance came 2 years ago when he bought a one-way ticket to Kenya. The 38-year-old retired veteran has found a community in the East African country's capital, where he now runs an Airbnb business.
They were coming to Africa to learn how to be civilized.
I've always had that adventurous spirit, especially when I joined the military, got to go to different countries, and so me taking the opportunities to venture out to other places, that's what allowed me to make a home away from home, and Kenya is my new home.
African American businesses, such as Adila Relocation Services, have seen a notable rise in the number of African Americans seeking to move to Kenya. The company's founder, Adila Mohammed, moved to Kenya 4 days after her mother's funeral in search of healing. Now she advocates for others hoping to do the same.
For me, it's a movement. It's people deciding to make a choice for themselves. They're not being forced. Their shackles are being broken. Chains are being thrown away, like, mentally.
Experts say African economies are likely to benefit from these moves, especially those willing to tackle corruption and create a healthy environment for investors. But African countries will need to prove their stability to keep the new residents here. Africa Bureau, WION, World is One.
As Ethiopia hosted the United Nations Food Systems Summit Stocktake in Addis Ababa, a youth-led poultry project on the outskirts of the capital is offering a local response to rising food prices. Here, groups of young people have established small-scale chicken farms with support from local authorities, and they are selling eggs and live chickens at lower prices than traditional markets. Here's a report from Furi Ethiopia.
In C.A.R city, about 25 kilometers from the capital, groups of young people have established small-scale chicken farms with support from local authorities. The farms sell eggs and live chickens at lower prices than traditional markets, helping ease pressure on household budgets while creating jobs for unemployed youth. The project is part of a broader government effort to boost domestic food production. Launched in June 2024, local officials say the initiative now includes more than 20 youth associations managing poultry operations in the Fury locality alone. Chicken is a staple of Ethiopian cuisine, especially during holidays when families prepare doro wat, a spicy stew. But in recent years, inflation and supply constraints have made the dish increasingly unaffordable for many.
We've been able to produce chicken and eggs in mass by organising our unemployed youths. There are about 20 youth associations in this locality alone. These associations supply the society eggs and chicken at a very low price, especially for the residents of this area, and at exhibitions and bazaars during festive season.
While the C.A.R farms are not officially part of the UN Summit program, they reflect the kinds of grassroots solutions. The event is spotlighting the efforts that strengthen food systems, reduce import dependency, and support local livelihoods.
The price of chicken has come down a lot compared to what we used to spend before. A chicken we used to buy for $26 to $35 is now available for $17. A good chicken, a big one, you can buy for $19. Therefore, it is good based on my observation.
The residents of the village come to us directly and purchase for less price. Whether it is 10 eggs or 20 eggs, whatever they can afford, they can purchase eggs at a much less price. It is good especially for families with lots of kids.
Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has highlighted poultry farming as a key part of Ethiopia's strategy to improve food security and reduce reliance on imports. For now, the model appears to be working, offering some relief to families facing high food prices and giving young people a sustainable source of income. Africa Bureau, WION World is One.
Somalia's Masla Abdi Dahir has taken it upon himself to nurture and spread artistic expression to change the negative perception of his country and empower the youth. Dahir trains 50 students every 2 months in his mission to empower young people and paint a better image of the city and the country as a whole. Here is his story from Mogadishu.
In a modest studio tucked behind a busy street in Mogadishu, Somalia, young people have found a rare outlet for creativity. A place where they quietly mix colors, sketch outlines, and bring their ideas to life in a city more often known for its security concerns than its art scene. At the center of it all is Masla Abdi Dahir, a self-taught artist who has made it his mission to nurture creativity in Mogadishu.
Every 2 months, I have the privilege of training 50 art students. After completing their training, I provide them with certificates to acknowledge their accomplishments. These talented individuals then venture into the town to apply their skills.
Dahir's studio has become a unique space for expression in Mogadishu, where access to formal art education is limited and creative pursuits are often misunderstood. The cultural resistance is rooted in conservative interpretations of religion and long-standing social norms that discourage visual storytelling. For Dahir, challenging these perceptions is as much a part of his work as teaching technique.
I'm so happy our youth are producing these beautiful paintings, and it's not just a painting, it's carrying emotional and truth and love.
I encourage you to take these examples to heart and use any art forms to portray your situations. The youth depicted pictures that beautifully showcase the peace and beauty of the country. Let their creativity and perspective inspire you to express your own experiences through art.
Tahir says the goal is not just to teach technique, but to create a space where young people can imagine something different of their country and share that vision with others.
Among the various challenges I have faced, the lack of equipment and encouragement stands out. Additionally, many people do not understand the essence of the arts or the use of a pen in artistic expression. In some places, there is a belief that the arts are sinful, further complicating the pursuit of creativity.
He hopes one day to take his work beyond Somalia, but for now, he remains focused on building a community of artists at home. Africa Bureau, WION World is One.
And that's all the buzz in Africa this week. Get in touch with us on all our social media platforms and our website and share your story from the continent with us. We'll tell it to the world. I'm Eric Njoka. Thank you for watching this week's episode of World of Africa on WION World is One. It's goodbye from me.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
Hello and welcome. You're watching WION World is One. My name is Mohammed Saleh, and let's start this broadcast by taking a quick look at what is making headlines at this hour. The tsunami warnings have been lifted in some countries, even as a massive alert continues in others. Hawaii County lifts the evacuation order and downgrades the alert. But in French Polynesia, the authorities are bracing for waves of up to 4 meters. The dozens of aid trucks enter into the Gaza Strip for the fourth day as Jordan and the United Arab Emirates airdrop some food and other supplies into the besieged enclave, where the images of the starving Palestinians has alarmed the world. Relief agencies' supply is still far from enough. Thailand takes foreign military attaches stationed in Bangkok to the Thai-Cambodian border. The move aims to allow international observers to see civilian casualties and damage that Thailand has attributed to the Cambodian military operations. The Russian strike on a military training camp kills at least about 3 Ukrainian soldiers following an overnight offensive in south, bringing the Ukrainian death toll to 28. The Bank of Japan is widely expected to stay on the sidelines and boost its inflation outlook on Thursday. Investors are looking for hints of another rate hike this year after a US-Japan trade deal reduced some uncertainty. When intense showers across the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir lead to the closure of all schools in the Poonch district, the Weather Office has issued warnings for landslides and flash floods. All right, so let's start with the big story that we are tracking on WION at this hour. The call for a two-state solution for the state of Israel and Palestine has gained some further momentum. 17 countries plus the European Union and the Arab League have backed the 7-page text agreed at the United Nations conference on reviving the two-state solution. With the latest push, calls for Hamas to disarm and also to end its rule of Gaza has also gathered more support. Several Arab nations, including Qatar, Saudi Arabia and Egypt,